Bree will be presenting her second session with the OAFE, and it will be focusing on documenting virtual training for fire and life safety educators. Bree is a fire prevention coordinator of Holy Grove Fire Department in Lexington, North Carolina. During her 18 years as a volunteer in the fire services, she has shared her passion in technology and education across not only the state of North Carolina, but across the East Coast, teaching the public as well as the fire service personnel to enhance their own programs through the integration of technology. Most recently, she has started Mrs. D's Virtual PD, which is a virtual professional development training program that combines live fire training or live training sessions and on-demand training opportunities to public school personnel and fire service personnel. Bree is the chair of the North Carolina East Region Fire and Life Safety Educators Association, as well as the secretary of North Carolina Fire and Life Safety Educators Association State Council. Her day job is a media coordinator of Oak Grove High School in Davison County, North Carolina, and she is also a past president of the North Carolina School Library Association. So at this time, I'll be handing it over to Bree. Welcome, Bree.
Hi, guys. I'm excited to be back with y'all, and I am going to, if you'll give me just a second to get myself situated and share my screen, and then we're going to get started. And I do have my chat window open, so you'll be able to see, like if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. There'll also be people monitoring it also, just in case I don't see it. Can y'all see my screen, the documenting? Can I get it? Okay, I see a couple thumbs ups. Okay. So we're going to go on and get started. So this is documentation and data in a virtual world. And as most of y'all know, data drives so much of our CRR efforts. And with this new virtual realm that we've been in for, oh my goodness, almost a year now, we are still learning. And one of those things that we really need to make sure we're doing is documenting just as if we were when we were in a face-to-face setting. And so this is going to show you some tips and tricks that I have learned over the past year, as well as things that we use in the school system for how we document. When we are teaching right now, we're in a virtual world. We have students that are virtual. We have students that are with us 2 days a week and then home the other 3 days. So we still have to document and get that data. And so everything that we're going to talk about are things that are practiced, they are tried and true, and they do work. So you find what works best for you. Before we get started, if y'all don't mind, if you will go through and make sure you mute your microphones. There are a couple people that still are not unmuted, and I can hear feedback in the background. Let's see, I'm gonna look and see if I can mute. Not seeing it off the top. So just if you don't mind, if you'll mute your microphones, that would be awesome. Okay, so we're going to go on and get rolling. Like they said earlier, my name's Brene Duggins. I have been a firefighter for 18 years. Actually, this year makes year 19. And so that means that some numbers on here are getting ready to change. So I'm going on 19 years in the fire service, and 18 of those have been doing fire prevention and public education. And I love it. I'm also a media coordinator. That means, for those of you that have never heard that term, that means I'm the librarian at my school. I live in the library with all the books, but I also am in charge of all the technology in the building, all the social media, all the websites, all that fun stuff. And I train my teachers on how to integrate technology. So that's where all of this started. A few years ago, I say a few years ago, oh my gosh, it's been almost 10 now. I started learning and presenting that I realized that what I do for my teachers works for the fire service. And so in North Carolina, I started presenting at our state conference tech tips and tools that I would use at my fire department. And it's just kind of blown up from there. And I love sharing this stuff. So please, if you have questions, please let me know. I'm also going to give a disclaimer. We are going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. And I know you are going to feel a little overwhelmed. Take a deep breath and don't stress, because the cool thing is that he said this is going to be recorded. I'm also going to be sending you a link to my slides as well as my website, where you'll be able to find this presentation as well as others. So today, find one or two things that really hit home with you and you go, oh my gosh, I know exactly how I can use that today. Pick that, start there. Then come back, watch the video, come back and watch the slides and find something else. So don't try to take it all on at one time. Pick one thing or two things at a time, integrate those, get comfortable with those, and then try something else. So I know we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but not everything works for every department. And that's where you get to customize it to what fits your department and your community best. So the very first thing I'd like you to do is I would like, in addition to the sign in for your agency, I have a sign in also because I do certificates for my website, and it also helps me track who I see and who I talk to and who I present to. This is one of those documentation pieces, and we're going to put it into action. So in the chat window, I have put a link to my digital sign in. So sometime today, at the beginning or the end of the session, I'll put it in twice. Make sure you sign in. Hey guys, if you're just joining us, if you don't mind making sure you mute your microphones, that would be amazing. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about types of documentation and data that we might be collecting. I'm going to give you some of my personal tips and tricks that I have learned. And believe me, there have been lots of hiccups over the years. And especially right now in this virtual world, there have been a lot of hiccups. It's been a very big learning experience, I bet, just for y'all as well. And then I'm going to give you a glimpse into what documentation looks like for me. And I'm going to actually show you some of the documentation that I'm doing. And like those Google form that I put into the chat window to document my attendance, I'm going to show you how that works and what it looks like on my side. So we're going to start out with these types of documentation. So why in the world do we document? Well, number one, just like we talk about, just like our face-to-face programs, it justifies our programs. If we can't prove our outreach, the higher ups, our administrative teams, our boards, they are not going to help keep our programs going. They may defund programs, they may cut programs, but it also helps us with our injury and loss statistics. We can look at injury loss statistics and we can evaluate it and compare it to how much outreach on particular topics we're doing. It assists us with those funding allocations. I can say, hey, I'm getting requests for this type of program constantly. Can we get a little bit of funding for it? Or, man, since we went virtual, I am having this many people every time and I'm waitlisting people. So you can show, hey, we need a little bit more funding. We need a little bit more, couple more hands. Excuse me. It also helps for future planning. That's a huge thing, is that we can plan ahead using that. Just like injury and loss statistics, the amount of people in our programs, how well our programs are doing, help us justify and plan for the future. If we are seeing increases every time we do a program, then I'm probably going to see an increase for a while, and I can use that to help justify. It helps us make adjustments during the presentation. I am one of those that is constantly watching. If you were to see me, sometimes one day I want to do a session where you can see me on camera in addition to my slides. I am watching constantly. I have many of y'all up in the grid view of the presentations right now. And I can flip and I can see, if you have your camera on, I can see your faces. So if I'm interacting with an audience, I can kind of watch. If you have that deer caught in headlights look, Well, dang, I'm going to see it. I also have the chat window up. So if you have questions, I'm able to gauge that and talk to y'all and answer questions at the same time. So I'm constantly adjusting, and how people interact with me changes the flow of my presentation. And you can evaluate participant learning, and we're going to do that today. I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can do that live. And don't be scared of that. A lot of people are very worried about doing some of that live. Well, what happens if it doesn't work? Or, what do I do if they all get it wrong? It's okay. That's why we're doing this, to learn. And it assists in the evaluation of our programs. We can't evaluate our programs if we have no evaluative measures happening during our program or at the end of our program. You could do the best presentation in the world, but unless you have some way to document that the participants gained knowledge by your presentation, you can't evaluate that. So what kind of data can we get? Well, right off the bat, registration. And I know for some sessions, people do registrations beforehand. You can look at address clusters versus call data. You may have a program you're doing and you are trying to target a specific audience. And if you do registration beforehand, like pre-registration, you could look at address clusters and see, are the neighborhoods that I'm really targeting, is that who's registering? So by asking a couple questions in your registration, address, some basic demographic information, we can use that to compare to our target audience. Are we really reaching? You're looking at your target groups. Are you reaching the right group in your marketing? And that's huge. I do sessions on social media and outreach, and people sometimes forget that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, they all have different audiences that they're focused on. Same way with newspapers, TV stations, radio stations. Who are you targeting? You want to make sure that your outreach and your marketing is targeting the right group. Your age groups. Are you reaching the target audience in your marketing? It's the correct age group. We may be trying to do kitchen fire safety for teenagers, and whenever the registrations all come in, we're getting a lot of senior adults or older adults. And so we've got to look at, do we need to change the wording? Do we need to say, have two different types of sessions? It helps us look at our number of participants. This is an easy one. This is just a really quick outcome of data. We can look at numbers, the number of people interacting during the program. We're going to do some activities in just a little bit where you are going to be interacting with me, and I can look at that. Now, here's the hard thing in virtual. Not everybody participates. And so we want to do activities and fun things that engage them enough that they're willing to participate. And some of the things I'm going to show you today are anonymous. So it's informal assessments that we're doing. So people don't have to be worried about their name being tied to a question in the chat window or them raising their hand on the video screen. We can look at assessment scores. We can do assessments and quizzes and tests even in a virtual world. You can ask for suggestions for future programs. If you signed in on my Google Doc, and for anybody that just came in there, I'm going to put it back in the chat window. The sign-in sheet has suggestions, a suggestion box. So if there's topics you would like me to see, or my brain just, do y'all ever do those days where your tongue gets tied? That's me today. Suggestions for future sessions that I'm doing. I just booked out sessions for the next 2 months. There's one a week for the next 2 months for February and March, and they're posted on my website. Well, I'm getting ready to start booking the next 2 months. I want to know what people want to see. So that's what I want people to fill that out so that I know that. And there's so many other things that we can gather through these types of data. So we're going to start with registration. There are a couple different ways you can do it. I use Google Forms because it is free, and free is my thing. My department budget for fire prevention is $1,000. When on a normal year, we have a big Halloween event, and I clear out my entire budget just for that one event. And then I have to go beg, borrow, and all kinds of things just to make all my other events for the year. So Google Forms is free. My agency, because we are a nonprofit, does have a G Suite for our entire agency, so we use Google. So that's why I use it. Microsoft, if you have Microsoft 365, there are forms in it as well. If you have Adobe Pro, you can make forms with Adobe that people can complete. So there's lots of options. Number of people use SurveyMonkey. Some of the analytics they want you to pay for. If you're just trying to get basic information, a simple SurveyMonkey will work. Eventbrite, I have used that for registration for big events with the Library Association before. And with Eventbrite, you can also, if there's a feature where you need them to pay a registration fee, you can do that with Eventbrite as well. There's another one that I have not used, but I have friends that have used it, called BookWin. And they seem to like it. Like I said, I have used Google Forms and Eventbrite the most, but lately I have been sticking with Google Forms just because it is completely free and it's doing what I need it to. Yes, my budget is $1,000. Somebody typed in the chat window. That is all I get for the whole year. I'm in a volunteer agency. Some tips for your registration. Is make your registration simple. If it is a long drawn out registration, people are going to stop and they're going to be like, this isn't worth it. Be sure to collect any information you need during registration. If I need addresses, if I need ages, if I need, like at some events, you may want to, if you're trying to reach adults, you may want to also offer some kind of kids event at the same time. So sometimes you may need to know how many kids are going to be coming for that event. A contact number and email, things happen. And so if the event needs to be changed or postponed or canceled, you need a way to contact them. And then send links to access presentation and files. Give them, if they have pre-assignments that you want them to do, then make sure you have a way to send that to them. Somebody put in the chat window, I don't even know how to pronounce that, Quick Surveys is because it's a free account and you can export responses into PDF and Excel. That's why I like Google Forms. It does the exact same thing. And I'm going to talk about an add-on. The certificates that I email out actually all happen in Google for free. So my Google Form drops into a spreadsheet and I can manipulate it. And then I can use that add-on to actually send emails, certificates. Everything I have is set up automated. So with the click of one button after this presentation, once I have recordings and everything up on my website, then you will get an email and it creates the certificates for me. It sends the email for me and I don't have to touch it, which is awesome. It sounds like Quick Surveys does the same thing. So some ways you can gather data during your session, just like I sent in the chat window, that digital sign-in form. You can use whatever format you want, but you can do sign-ins when people get there. You know, it's one thing to have registration. Y'all know how it works. We have people, like 50 people register and like 20 show up. You know, it's like it happens all the time. I may have a ton of people register for an event and then life happens, they forget, they just, you know, don't want to come. So you want to see who's actually there because you don't want to send out certificates based on your registration. You want to do it based on who was actually physically there. So have some type of digital sign-in. I suggest doing it at the beginning and the end. If I'm going to do some type of evaluative measure with it, then I'm only doing it at the end. For example, the North Carolina Fire and Life Safety Educator Conference, and I will, when I send out my email, I'm going to send out a link for it too. It is completely free this year, and it is an on-demand conference. So y'all could all attend, get some great information on demand. With it, our evaluation or our sign-ins are going to be at the end of the sessions so that the links will show up at the end because we want people to do a survey of the session. So the sign-ins will be at the very end. Have somebody post it in the chat. If you are on a single device, I'll be very honest, it's very hard to present like this and see the chat at the same time. So like I'm presenting with 2 monitors and I can drop things into the chat. If you're doing it on your own, I would definitely suggest having somebody monitor that and drop stuff in for you. And then remind people to sign in. That's why I put one at the beginning, and then at the end, I'm going to say, hey guys, if you forgot to sign in or you joined us late, make sure you sign in. So what I want to ask you, this is our first interactive activity, is I want you to answer this question. What types of informal assessments do you do in your face-to-face classes? So in the chat window, I have put a link to an answer garden. It's also on your screen. So if you click the link in the chat window, it's going to open up another tab, and it's going to take you to this answer garden. The cool thing about answer garden is that it is completely free. And I use it in face-to-face classes, and I use it in my hybrid and virtual classes. So people can answer questions. So you can type in one word, you can type in a phrase. So if you'll go there, when you go there, you're going to notice there's already a lot of answers already, or there might not be. I think I reset this one. I had one where I had lots of answers already on the screen, but I want you to go there really fast. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds, and then we're going to actually jump over to the answer garden so you can see what it looks like. So click on the link in the chat window and answer the question. So on my screen now, you should see, can y'all see the answer garden? Okay. So the answer garden right now is blank. On yours, when you start typing in, let's see if people have, there we go. So now as you type in, the answers will pop up. If you notice, there are some that are small, some that are larger. The more people that answer the same way, the larger the answer becomes in the word cloud. So this is a really quick way to see so multiple things you can do with this. One, sometimes I use it almost like an anticipatory set. I ask people as they come into a session a question. It's on the board as people come in and are mingling before a class. Hey guys, really fast as you come in, answer this question for me. So it gives me some background knowledge. Where are people coming from? How much do they already know? I can also do it and ask a question about the little bitty section that we just talked about before we move on. I can ask a question and evaluate, okay, did they get the key point? And then I can look at it. Like this, we talk about informal assessment examples for face-to-face class, and people are going Q&A, Kahoot, looking at eye contact, body language. We can look at these, and then I can tweak some of my topics and what I'm talking about to talk about what you just answered. And Q&As is an easy one, especially in this virtual world, because there's lots of options. We can have a back channel going, which is almost like your chat window. People can be asking questions. And just like was mentioned before I started, educators are notorious for helping each other. And so somebody may type in a question there, and before I get a chance to answer it, another educator may have seen it and answered the question for me. Or I may see it and be able to answer it. That's a really neat way to be able to interact. With the eye contact, virtual is a lot harder unless you have, like I've got the grid open right this second, and if your cameras are on, I could see you, so we could look at each other. And I can see there are a couple of people's that cameras are on, and I can see you smile, I can see you shake your head based on what I'm saying. And then Kahoots, the cool thing is we can play Kahoot virtually. You can also assign a Kahoot and people to do it at their own time, which is really cool also. So this is Answer Garden. It's just answergarden.ch, and I have the link in the presentation for you. It is free, and I love free. That is my thing, as I love things that are free. It's great for brainstorming. It's great for answering questions. A couple other ones that I've used during sessions, Answer Garden and MiniMeter are my favorites. I use them all the time. Crowd Signal's another one. I don't use it as much because there are more paid things with it. But Answer Garden and MiniMeter have a lot more, like Answer Garden's completely free. MiniMeter has some paid stuff, but I've never turned it on. It does what I need. We can use it to see where your audience is, like we said, like an anticipatory set. We can do quick assessments. And then my biggest recommendation is don't put the nitpicky questions in there. Hit the most important topics. That's when you're doing these virtuals, hit the most important things they need to know, and that's what you need to ask. So I'm going to let you see what MiniMeter looks like because I love this one. And then I'm going to show you what the background looks like on this one, like what it looks like for the teacher side. I'm going to put this link into your chat window as well. So this one, what I would like for you to do is I want you to share with me one safety topic you would like to teach virtually that you haven't done yet. What's one that is on there? You're just trying to figure out the best way to present it. So go in, click that link. You can, if you've got a cell phone, you can actually scan the QR code. It will pop up on the screen. You can click the link in the chat window, or you can just type it out. So if you'll go in there really fast, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds again. If you will go in and answer that question, one safety topic that you would like to teach virtually. I need like background music or something whenever we're doing this. Do you like the Jeopardy theme maybe? Y'all don't need me to sing. And if y'all see, if you see me on camera and you see me shivering, I apologize. They did something in our building over the weekend and our heat is not working inside the building right now. And so it's below 60 in my office. Okay, I'm going to click on MiniMeter. I want you to see what it looks like at first. So many of you, this is what you should have seen, is it asks the question. Now on my side, I can see there's multiple questions that I have popped up right this second. This is the one that we just did. And so I'm going to put it into present mode as a teacher. And it looks like a PowerPoint presentation whenever I'm using it. So as people answer, I can scroll and see, and they pop up in real time. You can also have this up on the screen. And so when you go to, and what they do in a session, if you've already got this up, is they go to mini.com and then they put in that code. Well, I might have 3 or 4 different types of questions and I can bounce. When I flip my screen, when you use that code, you see the next question and then you would answer as well. So it's a really neat way. And I'm going to show you. So over here, that's what I've got 2 sitting in this one right now. I can go in and clear the results. You can also download them as a PDF and you can get that, we talked about that data and needing the interaction and that material from people. So if people are answering your question or ranking or doing multiple choice questions, you can download the results. If I want to add a slide, these are the types. We've got multiple choice, the word cloud, very similar to what Answer Garden did, open-ended, which is what I had for your question, was an open-ended. I asked you the question, everybody typed in their stuff. You can do a sliding scale. What are your thoughts on this? Or, they can rank them. You've got the rankings. You can do a Q&A. There's quiz competitions where they select the answer, very similar to Kahoot, or they type in an answer. And then you've got content slides. So just like PowerPoint or Google Slides, you can add in information and videos. So you can have your presentation built into this. I don't usually do that. I usually just have the questions that I need to ask in this and then pop them up on the screen. So this, and then there's even more advanced ones. So there's lots of options in this. Now, excuse me, one thing that I'm really excited about, this is in beta. It's called MiniMeter, and this right now with the virtual world doesn't really apply as much, but when we are back in a face-to-face world, MiniMeter is when you are on this, like have this up on your screen for your class, I can be standing somewhere else in the room and I can control these slides from my cell phone. And that sometimes being able to walk around, if anyone ever sees me live, if I ever get the chance to see any of y'all in a live setting, you will find, if y'all see me on the screen, I talk with my hands already, but I walk. I teach from my iPad, I project, to the slides, and then I walk and interact with people. I cannot stand in one place. And so the MiniMeter to me was amazing because then I could just be walking and change the slides and have people answer, and then I interact with the audience as I'm walking. So it's a really cool feature. So this is MiniMeter, and I love it. It's so much fun. Go play with this one. This is what, and think beyond just, this is the thing about public educators. Sometimes we wear many hats, and sometimes we have to train our own people. My guys know that when it comes to, if they put me in charge of training for a night at the fire department, they're doing something like this. They're going to be answering questions. They're going to be interacting. Test this out with the guys in the station first before you try it with your virtual program. That's how I test out everything. I'm like, they're my guinea pigs. So other ways during your session to gather some information, all kinds of Google tools, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets. You can do similar with Microsoft, but the downside is that unless they have a Microsoft 365 account, the live features are not there. But with Google, a lot of people have Gmail accounts. If they have Gmail, they can access this. But the cool thing is if you're sharing notes, they don't have to have a Google account to access it if you have it with anybody that with the link can view it. So they can still access and they can still see it, which is one thing I like. And if you have it where people are editing, and some of my classes I do, we are answering questions and dropping things in. It's in real time. And I like that feature, is that I don't have to wait for somebody to email me the file. We're doing it all in real time. Padlet and Linoit are like cork boards, and we're going to do a Padlet in just a minute. Padlet and Linoit, I have a board up with a question very similar to what you just saw, but in those you can add videos, you can add links, you can add pictures, you can add text, you could add music, you could add files, you can drop it in there, and it's a great way to network and share ideas and talk about things. You could, we may have products, everybody's sharing a new lesson plan, and you could have a Padlet that everybody drops their lesson plan for each other, and you can share them. Dot storming is another one very similar to that, it's just another version. So I'm going to show you Padlet. And so this one, I'm going to drop this one in the window too, so you can click on it. Now, when you get there, you are already going to see stuff on Padlet. I did not clear this one out. This is from a couple different sessions that I've done. And so on this one, you're going to share your ideas for virtual fire education sessions. And so you may have a link to your website. You may post a video of you presenting. You may type in something. So if you'll click on the link in the chat window, and it will take you to our Padlet. And so as it's coming up, it's going to take just a second. You're going to see there's lots of things already on here. And so there are questions like, here's a hot, not, sometimes hot. That's the activity from NFPA. There's people that we did one right where Fire Prevention Week. Some of them put their patch just to see how it worked. They've got posts, videos. So when you're on here, you can click the plus sign, and at that point you have some options. Put titles, your text, you can upload, you can add a link, you can actually search in Google for things, you can take a picture, and then this is all the things that you could do. You could draw something, you could record your screen, you could do a voice recording, you could film something. There's lots of options. You can use it to network with other educators, but in a class setting, I'm thinking about my fire and life safety educator ones because I'm getting ready to teach a class this weekend. They have to do a teach back, and they have to do like a social media post. And this is a great way for them to show that to me. Is they can film themselves doing that and then put it here that I can see it and each other can see it, and we can give feedback, give constructive criticism and feedback. So there's lots of options here, and it can be a fun way to interact with each other. So this is Padlet. And so, like I said, you can go through at Padlet. Okay, so somebody on here, I'm not sure if it was just at it, said, is it free? Padlet is a freemium. I use the term weird. Freemium means that there are free and then there's a premium part. You get like 2 Padlets for free and then you have to pay. I don't pay for Padlet. I'm very honest with the things that I do pay for, and this is one that I don't. So what I do is I have one Padlet that I'll use and then I will wipe it after because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll make a copy of it for my documentation and then I will wipe the Padlet and use it for my next class. So I print it with the info and then I save it in my file and then I go through and wipe it and put in my next question for another class. So I don't pay for this one. So yeah. Some other ways to document interactive games. In the answer garden a little bit ago, somebody mentioned Kahoot. I love Kahoot. I've used Kahoot for a long time. There are others out there, and I will say since the virtual learning because of COVID, they have been ramping up their game. Kahoot, GimKit. If you've never heard of GimKit, you need to go check it out. It's another freemium. Kahoot and GimKit are freemium. Most of these are. There's a free version, and then to get some of the other features, there is a paid side. There are some pluses to your department having a subscription with these. Some of the analytics you can get, some of the resources you can get are amazing. I have used Kahoot for years in my face-to-face classes. Now I'm doing it more in the virtual side as well with my on-demand stuff, because in Kahoot and GimKit, you can schedule, like you can make it and you can assign it and you do not have to do it live. So they can participate in those games and do it where it's not live. A number of these also have what's called ghost mode, or it's a way to go back. So the beginning of a session, it's like a pre-quiz or pre-test, have them take it. And then at the end of the session, they go back and they take it again and they're trying to beat their first score. So I also use them as surveys to get people's base knowledge, like an anticipatory set. Quizzes is another one. One of the things that I'm going to drop out real fast so I can drop this into the chat window for you. I forgot to grab this one and put it on my document. This is in Quizzes. If you want to try it, I'm putting it in the chat window. This is a referral code. It helps you and it helps me. Quizzes is another one that is like an online game. You can have the kids compete against each other. They can compete in teams. We use Quizzes a lot here at school. And then Socrative is another one that is like an interactive game. So these are all great ones to try out. At the end of your session, you want to think about assessment. What can we do for how to gather our data on what they learned? Google Forms, you can put them into quiz mode. And so it will grade it for you. There was an add-on called Flubaroo we used to use, and now it's integrated. So with the quizzes, you can turn on quiz mode and you put in your answer key and it will grade it for you and put the answer in the spreadsheet and give you the score. You can set it where it will email the participant their score or let them know. It'll tell them their score at the end, and it can also tell them the correct answers if you want them to. So you have all of those options. I use Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a video discussion board. If you've never seen it, if you go to my website, I have 2 sessions on Flipgrid, and then I also have another session getting ready to come up in the next 2 months on Flipgrid, where you post a question and it could be a video. And then the participants from your class actually answer it by video. So they could act out something, they could show you something. Hey guys, if y'all don't mind muting your mics. Oh, I think I found it. Woo! Flipgrid's really, really cool. So if you've never seen it before, go check it out. It is free. It is completely free, and it is free for all educators. And I have never had any issues with fire educators getting on there and using it as well. Rocketbook pages. This one's thinking outside the box. You know, so many times, especially when we're doing home escape planning with families, we give them the grid paper to do their grids. Well, you could use Rocketbook pages, and if you have never seen a Rocketbook, it's they have single-use notebooks, but they also have reusable pages. On the website, they have ones that are printables that you can use, so they're single use. And what sometimes we will do is we will draw out activities on those, and then whenever we're in a class, instead, because we want the kids to take those grids back home and actually use them, if we do it on a Rocketbook page, we can scan it with the app on our cell phone and it throws it into our drive. We tell it where we want it to go. So you could tell it to go to email, you could tell it to send it to your Google Drive, your Dropbox, whatever. And I have them set where it goes to my Google Drive, and it's a documentation of all of these like the home escape plans that families have done. So it's an easy way. Notes are the same way. Anything you do on a Rocketbook page, you can take in the app and it will send it wherever you want it to go. Book snaps, that's a neat way to interact with a document. So if you have families or kids that are doing an activity, they could take a picture of, a safety message, and then think about Snapchat and how you interact with Snapchat, adding text, adding pictures or stickers. That's what book snaps are. So it's them putting their thoughts, their feelings, their reflections into an image. And so it could be, hey, I want you to take a picture of your meeting place, and then talk to them about the book snap, and you want them to put pictures on it, messages on it, and you can talk through that. If you want more info about what book snaps are and how they work, on my PD page, and I'll give y'all the link in a little bit, there is a whole session on book snaps. You could do digital worksheets. One of the things that I did over the summer, especially with NFPA, is I took a number of the Fire Prevention Week activities and I turned them into interactive activities. You can turn things into digital worksheets, and then people can go in and they can type on them to answer them. They can manipulate, like the drag and drop stuff. They can do that as well. And then they can turn it in as an assessment tool. Did they do this correctly? The big tips that I have for this part is you need to plan your assessment ahead of time. Don't try to do the assessment last minute. You need to think through and you need to test it. There is a term in the tech world that we use called dog fooding, and it is testing it from the participant's point of view. It may look one way on the teacher side, but on the student side, it looks differently. And so test it out, give it to people. I'm notorious for sending links and say, hey guys, I need you to open this up. I need you to try this and see if it works. And so that's one of those things that I totally suggest doing. Keep your directions simple. People need to understand what you expect them to do. And if you have too many instructions, or it's too many steps, they get lost. It gets lost in the shuffle. So make it simple. Another way, if there's multiple steps, is create video instructions. Just like us, this virtual world is very new to many people. Students in the school systems are used to seeing some things this way. But it is very overwhelming for a lot of people, especially when you deal with adults or even seniors, that this is the first time that they've ever had to do any of this interaction virtually. So making a video showing them hearing your voice and seeing you open up the registration window, and how do they fill it out? How do they hit the submit button? Where the submit button is? How do they save the document for themselves? That's huge. And so making those videos is key. So when I am going to show you this one, I can't put this, I can't make a video because we're in Zoom. Flipgrid will not allow me to record while I'm in a recording. So I'm going to click on Flipgrid. I did put this in the chat window for y'all. So I'm gonna let y'all see what Flipgrid looks like. So with this one, you can share, and this one's a really neat one that you can do for networking, is you can have people go in, share ideas, have them answer questions. I do one called Flip Hunt, and it's on my PD page. It's like a scavenger hunt. It's a digital scavenger hunt. So you could do that with your audiences. So like here's a couple where people have made recordings, and when we click on them, you'll be able to see and hear them. If you want to record your own response, and it's want me to join, so let me log in really fast so you can see what the page looks like. It's not going to let me record because, like I said, because it may not let me go. There we go. It's telling me that my mic, it's because it's being used right this second. So when here you come in, you're going to be able to see a record button, and it looks like this. The cool thing with this is there are stickers, there are all kinds of ways now that we can make this fun. And for those people that don't like to be on screen, literally you can record yourself and then you could put emoji sticker on top of you so that we could hear your voice, but not really, you wouldn't see yourself. So, but it's a really neat way to ask questions. You can do Q&As this way. You can do those scavenger hunts. You can do assessments this way. I have found, especially with discussion boards, that sometimes people are they are able to express themselves better speaking their thoughts than they are typing it out. And so sometimes we get a better gauge of how well they understand it by recording. Now, if people are worried about it being seen, especially if you're dealing with younger kids, you can moderate a board. And a moderated board, when you clicked on it, would not see these. It hides all of the videos and only the instructor can see the videos. And so I do that with elementary students, middle school students. I do hide those videos. So couple things, tips and tricks. I do want to share some stuff with y'all. The big things is plan ahead. You've got to plan ahead on this. This can't be a last minute thing. Test your documentation. That means go in and test and make sure all the links work in your documentation. I have had to, one that I checked before I started this today is my login screen, my sign in. I turn that off after sessions because on my PD page, in order to get credit, it is a different login. And so my videos will look different. And so if they see that login on a recording, they can't use it. They have to use the one that's actually on the website. And so I turn it off. So I had to make sure it was turned on before your session today. Another is use Easter eggs. Easter eggs I'm not sure if y'all have ever heard of them. In movies, sometimes people talk about Easter eggs. It's things that are hidden. And that is very similar. Sometimes we have people in the virtual world that will zoom to the end because they know the sign-in sheet's at the end of the recording. Well, I may put on that recording or on that sign-in sheet or that assessment, what was the magic word or what was the secret word or what did Miss D hold up during the session? And that Easter egg tells me if they watched the video or not. And so and I always do it at different times. So they can't always go to minute 3 and find it. So it's always, I spread them out. Keep your documentation organized. And I will show y'all in just a minute what mine looks like and how I keep myself organized. Use tools that enhance learning. Don't use a tool just to use a tool. Find things that work with your topic. And it's going to enhance and it helps you get that data, but also helps you piggyback and make your program better. Think outside the box. A lot of this stuff is very outside the box. There are so many things that have come about that I have seen departments do in this virtual environment that are amazing and so out of the box that 5 years ago or even last year this time, they were not even on anybody's radar. Try new tools and play. I will tell you that that's one thing I love about my job is that I get to play with a lot of these tools constantly. I would rather do the work for my teachers and play with them and find out what works and what doesn't, what's hard to use, what's easy to use, what's going to be easy for the students, before they mess with it. That's what I get to do on a daily basis. So go and play with it and practice, practice, practice. I can't say that enough. It's just like a presentation. And I tell my FLSE students this all the time, especially the ones that are newbies that have never talked in front of audiences. Guys, you gotta get up and practice. You gotta talk to yourself. You've got to, I talk in the car. My kids know so much about fire and life safety topics because my car and driving places is how I practice. And so they learn all kinds of things because I'm practicing the sessions or practicing something I always get tripped up on. The cool thing in the virtual world is with Zoom, with Google Meet, with Teams, with all these different programs, you can record yourself. Record and watch the presentation back. Find what you can do better. We all can improve. And by watching ourselves, we'll find those things that we get tripped up on or ticks. And so it helps us get better. Let's see, somebody said in the window, oh yeah, like they can submit questions that they want to know. You could do that, which is a really cool idea. What they're saying is families could submit questions. And the cool thing in Flipgrid is you can video respond back to them. You can type a comment, but if a family, like the message is saying, why are fire trucks red? Then yeah, you can make the recording. You could be in front of your fire trucks and you could answer the question back by video. So if you have a mascot or if you're talking about a particular topic, you may demo in the video back to them. And now with the virtual world, Flipgrid opened up the recordings to be up to 10 minutes long. So your responses don't have to be 30 seconds, 90 seconds. You can do a detailed response back to them, which is really cool. So now here's the fun thing, or at least I think it's fun, is I'm going to give you a glimpse into what documentation looks like for my professional development page and what we're doing here today. So the documentation flow, I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to actually jump out and I'm going to show you on my screen how I'm organized, how I keep the documentation, how the certificates come in. So I have a documentation, I have a notification sign up. So on my website, if people want emails for like when sessions are coming out, I just sent one out with my new schedule last week. I have the session sign-in form, which you saw in your chat window earlier. It drops into a spreadsheet for me. So you're going to see that in just a minute. And it also will do the certificates for me. And I use the add-on I use is called Autocrat. And I'm actually, my very first session in February, that's on my website, that's going to be coming up live that first week in February, is on Autocrat and the ways you can use it to send out emails, to send out newsletters, to send out certificates. It's going to show all of that, how you can automate it. So with the sign-ins, I'm using Google Forms, and it does drop into a spreadsheet, and you can manipulate the spreadsheet. So for me, I'm going to jump all the way out. So this is my folder with sessions. And many of these I've done multiple times. So like we're in the virtual documentation session. And so here there's a couple things. I have the virtual, this is our sign-in sheet. So what you saw just a little bit ago. And so when I go to that and people sign in, then what it does is it drops it into a spreadsheet for me. And so you'll be able to see the information that's been dropped in. Now, some cool things that I have is I ask for people's email addresses. That way I can send those forms back to them. Now, if you look over on this far side, this is what Autocrat does. Autocrat actually sends the certificates for me. And so let me jump back out. So here is my certificate template, and I just use it in my session on AutoCAD, I go into detail on how you build these, how they function. I'm not going to go into that. I just want to kind of give you like a sneak peek. So this is in Google Slides, and it has the tags from that sign-in sheet on it. And so what'll happen is whenever I tell the spreadsheet over here to send the certificates, it goes through and it uses the first names and last names and email addresses that are on here, and it drops them in those certificates. And so like my certificates populate here. And so now, and I don't do this. Used to, I hand type certificates and emailed them out. I don't. One click of a button and it does all these for me. So it'll put the name, the department, and it sends an email for me all in one button, one click, and it's done. And I love that. It has made my life so much simpler to do that now. And I keep everything in the same folder. So when I do a presentation, like the virtual documentation, everything that I need for that is all right here. And so in just a little bit, y'all will have a folder here with the date, and your certificates will drop into that folder, so that if somebody calls back later and says, hey, my certificate didn't show up, or I lost my certificate, I can go in and I can find your certificate. I also keep all recordings that I do. I keep transcripts of chat windows. So when I'm the one that's doing the recording, I keep track of that, because sometimes people ask also about that. And I've always got my spreadsheets as well. So this just kind of shows you that the sign-in goes to that Google Slides. And this gives you some information on AutoCAD. It does give you the user's guide. I will go on and tell you the user's guide is very simple. I had to go tinker with AutoCAD to learn what I have learned. But I did give you a copy of my template, of my certificate template, because when you do programs for the public, even virtual programs, a lot of times they want proof that they've done something. And even if it's you're doing kitchen fire safety, or they did hands-only CPR, to a lot of people, that's a big deal. It's like giving a little kid stickers. An adult getting that certificate to say, hey, I did this. It gives them that excitement. So being able to share that with them. One of the last things I want to do is I want to give you my website. This is Mrs. D's Virtual PD. And like I said, on my website now, I just added the next 2 months worth of sessions. And I'm going to actually click on it and show y'all. And actually, let's jump out here. And I forgot to give y'all the new link. I just changed the link. I'm going to put it back in. I'm very excited that I have my own domain now. Oh, it didn't do it as a link. Oh, so this is Mrs. D's Virtual PD. And when you come on here, if you sign up for email notifications, as I do upcoming sessions, I'll send you those. Below are past recordings. So you can go in. Here's the one about Flipgrid. A couple people were excited about Flipgrid. You can look at the recording, you get a copy of the slides, and you can also get your certificates. A lot of places, especially down here, doing these online PD sessions, you get credit for your continuing education stuff for your departments. I'm not sure how y'all's work, but for here, down here, these work for our public educators. Ours have to have 10 hours of continuing ed a year to keep their certification and count towards our ISO inspections. And so these count for that. So there's all kinds of things, comic strip makers using Canva. You'll see some that are specific to CRR, but all of them apply to education. At the top, the upcoming sessions, these are my upcoming sessions for the next 2 months. So AutoCAD is the one that's February 2nd, so you can actually go in and register for it. We're doing everything from Flipgrid, using green screens, Google Sites, live quiz tools. So we're going to talk about Quizzes, Socrative, GimKit, Kahoot, all kinds of other options, and a couple that are freemiums that literally people can buzz in live. So there's some awesome options out there, and talking about live streams as well. So those are coming up. So that's all on my PD page. And then the last thing is I just want to say thank y'all for letting me come. And we're going to take a couple minutes if y'all have questions that you have. My email address is on the screen. You are more than welcome anytime to shoot me an email to ask questions. I'm going to put it in the chat window as well. It's also on my PD page. So you can also get a hold of me that way as well. If you did not sign in, make sure that you sign in. Let me put that back in the screen because I know we had a couple people that dropped in at the throughout the session. So I would like to come visit. I'm not sure that my kids and my family would like me to move up there, but I would love to come visit whenever things calm down. If anybody wants to have me come visit, I would love to. I love to travel. So another thing is I do want to say that if some people ask me where my slides come from, I use Slide Mania. For these, there are tons of cool templates on there. If you've never checked it out, please go check out Slide Mania. They have interactive games, true false games, board games, interactive notebooks, and just plain slides. So there's some really, really cool stuff on Slides Mania. If anybody has questions, please throw them in the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and ask questions. I know we finished up with a couple minutes so that we would have plenty of time to ask questions. So please, you're more than welcome to unmute or type in the chat window. Anybody there? It's so quiet.
I think we're a little quieter of a group up here in Ontario.
Oh, we're very chatty down here sometimes. Well, I will say our FLSE group, the last time we met, they were very quiet. And then we did a networking where people were asking questions, and they started getting all chatty and talking on top of each other. I was like, guys, we're gonna have y'all raise your hands and then we will call on you. Let's see. Okay, let's see. How do you inspire people on virtual calls to display their videos? Okay, so videos. If you're in this setting, most of y'all have your cameras off. So one fun thing we do sometimes, it's not necessarily fun, I guess, for the kids. We do a camera check every once in a while. And we'll be like, okay, camera check. And they have to turn their camera on for just a second so that we can see they're still there. Does that make sense? We have a couple things that we have to have attendance for, and we've got to make sure that people are there. There are some interactive options where the kids have or the participants have logins. And so when they answer, their name is tied to that answer. And I also know that they're participating. Sometimes we'll do fun things where I'll be like, hey guys, I need y'all to show me something that's such and such color, or I need you to throw up on the screen. I want you to give me 5 and show me your hand. So there's different things that we can do and interact to say, okay, guys, I want y'all to act out this. Especially if we're doing something that normally we would have the kids or participants demonstrating something, I'm going to have them show me that on camera if possible. But keep in mind that there are people that are going to be participating that may not have a camera. You may have people that are by tablet, by phone, by device. So it kind of varies sometimes. But try different things and know your audience. Like if it works in a classroom, then a lot of times I can get them to do it like this, virtual, especially little kids, elementary kids, man. They will turn, and especially if you have pets, if your department has pets, having them on camera with you will get them to turn their cameras on, because then they'll be like, they want to talk to the animal. Charlotte Fire Department just got a dog, and his name is Cat. So it's Cat, the fire dog, and Cat will be on videos sometimes. So that's another way. Having logging is, which link are you having issues? The My Login. If My Login's not working on your work device, try a cell phone. That's the biggest thing. Or shoot me an email if you couldn't get logged in, and then I can email you the link back so you can do it from a cell phone. Fees for sessions. Somebody did ask about a fees for sessions. I have started charging some fees for some of my sessions. Biggest thing is just message me. I know what budgets are like. A lot of times I'm having to take time off of work to do some of these. So I have started doing some small fees for sessions just to help me cover some of that. The larger the session or the longer the session, it kind of aids. It's like on a sliding scale based on what we're doing and if it's something I'm building from scratch or not. Let's see. Go-to tools for presenting with teenagers. You know, I'll be honest, a lot of what I just showed you is what I use with teenagers. I teach in a high school. And I have a class every semester. I teach a class called Student Media Assistance. So literally they're learning what it's like to work in a library. And half of my kids, or actually over half of my kids, almost 75% of my kids last year or last semester were completely virtual. So a lot of what I just showed you is what I use. And they interact. They love the games. They love the quiz games. They like the interactive activities, the workbooks, interactive digital notebooks and stuff. They like that stuff as well. Let's see. I often ask people to keep cameras on. It is a fine line in knowing your audience. In the school setting, sometimes we don't because we're looking into people's homes. If somebody's not comfortable with their camera, that's their thing. What I also make suggestions to people is finding calm backgrounds, like sitting somewhere that there's nothing behind them. And that makes people a little more they're a little more apt to turning on their camera sometimes. I like seeing people. That's what's been hard a little bit. I've scrolled through the grid, and during the presentation, a lot of people turn their cameras off, which for this setting is okay. But I do like seeing people. I like being able to see, because you'll see the expressions. You'll see people shaking their heads, and I can watch that. A difference in Kahoot in-person versus virtual. Yes, everything is different. When it comes, I like Kahoots live because if an answer comes out a certain way and everybody answers wrong or most people answer wrong, then I'm going to stop and not go to the next question and I'm going to answer it. If I'm doing it in virtual, if I'm doing it live virtual, it works the same way. But if I am assigning it in an asynchronous environment, meaning we're not doing it live, it is a little bit harder because then I have to go look at the data and then try to respond to people. Or if it's something that's going to be multiple sessions, then at the beginning of the next session, I address the things that people got wrong in the Kahoot when they were doing the assessment. So it is a different way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking. Play with it. And if you run into questions, just shoot me an email. Do y'all have any other questions? Y'all have had some good ones in the chat window.
We'll give it one more minute there, Bree, and then if they're done, if there's no more
Oh, I
questions.
see more people. I opened up my unshared, so I'm seeing more people now. Hello, people. See, I got people to wave. Hey, y'all, I have like, y'all are, be surprised that I don't have like a tutu and a weird hat on. That's normally me. Do y'all have emergency? I'm gonna be funny for a minute. I think mine's in here. Do y'all have emergency tutus? Because I do.
No.
Oh, where's it at? Oh, here it is, top drawer. Everybody needs an emergency tutu in their office. You never know when you need to get somebody's attention. And that's something somebody was taught. Kevin totally needs a tutu. You know what? I get the guys in them sometimes at the department. But thinking something funny like that, I know that for guys, I know y'all are going, what the heck? But the crazy ears or the tutu or crazy glasses sometimes is enough to get people's attention. Does that make sense? Or I saw this really cool idea. Do y'all know like the pipe cleaners that you can get at the Dollar Tree? You can get like 50 of them at the Dollar Tree, multicolored. So like I wear a headset. So you could do an activity. Somebody was talking about getting people to interact. Every time somebody asks a question or gets a question right that I ask, you can put a pipe cleaner on my headset. And then, so then by the end of the session, I might have like a whole new hairline going of pipe cleaners or stickers or something. You know what I mean? Like something, it's an incentive. So that, and I know that sounds crazy and little kids love it. You'd be shocked at how many teenagers do too. They love stuff like that. And I mean, so it's teaching them how to do the backgrounds. Like I'm in my office now, but when you see me present and I'm working from home or I'm doing one of my sessions for the website, I have a green screen and I will change the background up sometimes. And sometimes that's just enough to get people's attention. Somebody asked, what kind of headset do I use? I use a Logitech. This particular one is an older one. It's but there's one very similar. It's about $40 to $50. And let me go on and tell you, it was the best money spent. If you were going to do virtual, I would highly recommend the headset. It does block out some of the noises. We've had bells ringing. We've had announcements. We've had people yelling out there, and hopefully y'all haven't heard that. And that's why I wear the headset all the time. So it's a Logitech, Amazon, love it. Amazon, I don't know if y'all do Amazon like we do Amazon, but like Amazon is like the bomb right now, especially whenever you can't go to the store or some of the stores to go get stuff. So
Excellent. Well, I think that's all the questions right now, Bree. So
cool. Well, thank
I'd like
y'all.
to say on behalf of the OAFE, thank you for your time and willingness to share your knowledge and expertise. You have
I've had
unloaded a
fun.
lot of information and your recommendations of taking one or two ideas and coming back and watching the recording to take and build off some of those tips and tricks was a great suggestion, as well as your discussion about, I think it's GimKit and Kahoot. I also like your emphasis to use the tool to enhance your teaching and not just to use a tool for the sake of using a tool when it comes to teaching virtually. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. And with Ontario shifting into a second lockdown, this information can be delivered at a more opportune time as public educators continue to expand our virtual domains. So thank you very much again for joining us. And we look forward to working with you at our upcoming webinars. So please stay safe and we'll talk to you soon, Bree.